What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the channel. Today we will be covering patch version 0.14, which is the Kwong update that comes out on Tuesday. But before we get into all that, make sure you guys go ahead and follow me on Twitch. As soon as I get to 300 followers on Twitch, I will stream every single day. We have had some banger streams and gotten some crazy gameplay. I have a fire Wraith gameplay coming out tomorrow. It is literally my best Wraith game ever. Like, it was complete annihilation from start to finish. It was absolutely crazy. If you guys have never watched a video of mine, that is the only video where you should watch from start to finish, no cuts or anything. But let's move on to the patch notes. We don't really have too much to cover because it wasn't really a big update. It wasn't a big patch notes. So a couple of days ago, we got the Kwong trailer. It was a pretty small trailer. We didn't even get the abilities yet, like to see what his abilities do. I guess we might get that on Monday or something. I don't know. Or we might just have to wait until Kwong comes out, but you can see what his abilities do right here. And yeah, we're also getting a store update, so we're getting a couple of new skins. We got a Faye skin, we got a little Kwong skin that's coming out with him as well, and then we have a Richter skin. Also on the patch notes, there's only a couple of weeks left to play the PlayStation closed beta, so if you guys still want to play it and you're on console, make sure you guys come to predecessorgame.com, this website right here, and then click the PlayStation sign up, and you guys will get a key, and then you guys can play it on your console. So moving on to some of the bigger things, we got some controller improvements, which I do like. So with the cursor, the virtual cursor that you get, you can move it to your left and right stick. You can change that in the settings. That doesn't really mean much, but what I like right here is we can now change our dead zone to 0. I literally have no idea why it was just like stuck at 5, but it was really annoying, especially for players that like me would have custom controllers or kind of know what you're doing when it comes to like the aiming. I just never understood why they capped it at 5, but they're changing that, so now we can put it to wherever we want. They're changing some minion sound effects, and they're also going to add hints into the in-game chat box. By the way, for all the people that are asking me what my controller settings are, I will be coming out with a video on my controller settings because they did change from the last video, but they didn't change so much. So if you guys are really wondering, go ahead and check out my controller setting video. I will link it down in the description below. But yeah, an updated version will be coming soon. So on to some of the hero changes. There wasn't too many of them. A lot of them were just bug fixes or quality of life things, such as his crunch. All they did was fix his hitbox because his hitbox was completely broken. Like, he could kind of be really far away from you and still kind of hit you, and it was just busted. Howitcher's getting kind of a nerf and a buff, sort of. Like, really, they just wanted to make it so his ultimate didn't like dump out in like 2 seconds like it does, and you're like kind of just floating up in the air. So they made it so where his ultimate takes a little bit longer to reach the maximum damage, but they also increased how much overall damage it does. They reduced the magical power scaling of it by 2%, and they reduced the damage per missile. But if you land all of your missiles, you will do 20 more damage. It's not a lot more, but you would do a little bit more damage. It also gives people the opportunity to get away from Howitcher's ult, because if you notice, if you're out in the open and Howitcher drops his ult, you're basically gonna take the majority of that ult in about 2 seconds, unless you have like a blank or a dash or something. Moving on to Kalari, she's getting a little bit of a nerf to her camouflage, and her base mana is going to get a little bit of a buff. So her base mana was pretty small, it's going to get buffed up, and her mana regen is going to get nerfed. And on top of that, her base physical power is going to get nerfed as well, because the last update she got a little bit of a buff to her dagger, and I believe her ultimate as well. And she was kind of a pest this past like month, being a super bursty kind of character early game. So they're going to go ahead and nerf her camouflage. So that camouflage duration is going to go from 8 seconds at max rank to 7 seconds, which in my personal opinion, that's still a little bit too long. I don't think it should be longer than like 5 seconds, but it is what it is. And lastly, her health regeneration is going to be getting a buff from 12 at maximum level to 20. And that is while she's in the Shadow Walk ability. That's not like base. Moving on to Kira, they're going to be buffing up her ult because her ult's damage like at first level is pretty weak. And then they're going to add the 30% on hit modifier to the descriptions. Same thing with Chimera. They're going to be doing the same thing, adding the 75% on hit modifier to the descriptions. So moving on to Morgesh. Morgesh is going to be getting like a buff to her mana pool. So they're going to nerf her overall base mana, and they're going to increase the regen of it, right? Or the growth per level level of it. But then they're going to change her hive ability to cost 70 at all ranks. And then also the same thing with her swarm. The swarm is going to get a reduction in mana cost as well from 90 to 80 at max level. So basically Morgus can be a little bit more present during the mid game. That was their goal of this little buff. Personally, I really don't care. I don't really play Morgus. Now moving on to Rampage. Rampage is getting a weird nerf buff kind of thing, bro. So the biggest thing here is that his rock, bro, is going to go from 2-second stun to a 1.6 second stun at all ranks. I don't know how I feel about it. Rampage was pretty weak already, but me personally, I can't stand getting rocked by Rampage and just sitting still for 2 seconds. So I feel it, but then again, if you're a Rampage main, you know, I feel bad for you at the same time. The damage is also going to get nerfed from 290 at max level to 270, and the mana cost is going to increase. So they just basically nerfed the soul out of that rock. Also with Rampage, they're going to be increasing his base mana regen, and along with his physical armor growth per level. And then with his rumble ability, that's going to be getting a damage reduction from 210 at max level to 165, but they're going to increase the scaling from 50% to 90%. And the slow from the rumble is also going to get increased from 20 to 25%. The slow duration is going to get decreased from 1.25 to 1 second. And the cooldown is also going to get decreased from 8 basically all the way down to 6. And then while he has his ultimate up, the cooldown is going to get decreased from 50% to 40%. And then for his ultimate ability, the duration is going to get increased from 10 seconds to 12 seconds. And the passive healing multiplier is going to get decreased from 4 times to 3.5 times. And then you're actually going to get a little bit of a health buff when you drop his ult. So you're going to go from 550 at max level to 600. So he got a weird little like bruiser tanky buff. I believe that's what they were going for. Like I said, I don't really care too much for Rampage. But if you are a Rampage main, I guess, right? Like that rock nerf, honestly, is pretty bad. Like that rock nerf might just make all of these other things kind of irrelevant. Like I know he got the little 90% physical power scaling for that rumble, which is cool, but that rock nerf is huge because Rampage needs it, bro. He really does need it. Moving on to Richter, they're going to nerf his armor growth from 5.3 to 5. And they're going to also nerf his maximum health shield from 15% to 13%. With Seraph, they're going to add another quality of life improvement to add the 60% on hit modifier to the end game description. Same thing with Twin Blast. For his double shot ability, they're going to add the 50% on hit modifier to the description. Now, on to one of my favorite characters, as you guys know, is Wraith. Wraith is going to get what some people would consider a nerf, but honestly, I think is a pretty decent balance to Wraith, because if you ever watch any like high tier Wraith gameplay, Wraith is very oppressive. Like as once he starts getting fed and whatnot, he's really oppressive. It's really hard to stop him from just going crazy because the burst on him is absolutely absurd. The thing is, Wraith is a high skill hero, so not everybody can do that. But if you are, you know, Himothy with Wraith, you're really just gonna take over the entire match. And like I said in the beginning of this video, you guys are gonna see full scale what it is like to just completely obliterate a lobby and they can't do shit about it. So what is going on here? Now, you guys might be seeing a return of the magical Wraith, because the peekaboo ability, right? That's the little grenade that marks enemies. So what they did was, right, so at maximum level, they're going to decrease the damage from 180 to 160. The physical power scaling is actually going to get increased from 65% to 70%. They also added magical power scaling, which is pretty good, because that was one of the biggest problems with like magical Wraith. Peekaboo was only physical based, and if you built the magical, like that ability did like so little damage. It does a shitload of damage when you build physical, but if you went magical based, it didn't really do much for you besides just mark the enemies. So the other thing that they're going to add with Peekaboo is they're going to decrease the maximum health passive, right? So like once you mark them, you get the little buff to your knock knock. They're going to decrease that from 6% at level 1 to 5 at level 1. Basically, the maximum level is going to stay the same. So once you max it out, it's going to be the same as usual. The cooldown is actually going to get a nice little decrease from 12 seconds at max rank to 10 seconds, which is pretty good. I like that change. And then the mark duration, I don't know how I feel about this one now, because it's really going to put the pressure on you to actually like land your shots a little bit quicker, or to take a little bit more risky plays. Like 4 seconds would have been good, but 3.5, I don't know. And to be fair though, I mean, I pretty much hit people within that window, so we're going to see how this one turns out, but the mark duration is going to get decreased from 5 seconds to 3.5 seconds. But it's not many times where I really just like yeet my peekaboo across the map and just like try to run up on somebody, hit him. I'm usually point blank and I'll snipe them immediately. So I'm not too sure how this duration one is going to really affect Wraith too much. Probably not much. His surprise, which is the invisibility, which gives you the penetration passive. It's going to get a little bit of a nerf from 20% at maximum level to 16%. So I believe that's a 4% difference. We'll see how that turns out. Wraith is still going to hit pretty hard even with that little bit of a nerf. And then on to the knock, which is the snipe, the devastating oppressive snipe that people experience when they go against me. You feel me? So they're actually going to be increasing the damage from, what is this, like 30 at level 1 to 50. That seems like where the first couple of levels are going to be getting a little bit of a buff, level like 1 to 4. And then when you max it out, it's still going to be 150. The power scaling is going to be getting nerfed by 5%. I believe they did just buff that in the last patch, but Wraith became very oppressive really quick if you were like really good with him. So they're going to nerf it just a little bit. And so what they're going to be doing is they're going to be increasing the mana cost from 60 at all levels to 80, 85, all the way up to like 100 at maximum rank. That is pretty bad, I'm not going to lie. But here's the thing though. They're going to be adding the mana refund from 50% to 100%. So this is going to help Wraith with wave clear, but also if you land your shots, you shouldn't be too worried about it costing 100, just because you're going to be getting 100% of your mana refunded to you. And the best part about this is they're going to be decreasing the cooldown, which is a buff, from 8 seconds at maximum rank to 6 seconds. So I don't know, bro. Wraith might really be just him, bro. If you can get really good with Wraith, you're going to enjoy Predecessor a lot. Now, I can't lie, it is really easy to stop a Wraith in his tracks. I'm not gonna lie. That invisibility is not much of a getaway, bro. Just pull up on a Wraith and just like not let him have any type of room, and you can stop a Wraith pretty easy. This last part of his knock ability is pretty stupid in my opinion, but they're gonna be nerfing the minion damage from 75% to 40%, which is kind of weird considering he has some pretty garbage wave clear until you build like complete Mind Razor. But that's one of these things where like, I mean, honestly, his basic attack will fuck up the minions regardless, so it doesn't really matter that much anyway. So that was the last of the hero changes. Now we're on to some of the item changes. So with Obelisk, basically late game, once people start building up a ton of stacks, it provides like a one-shot potential. So they're gonna nerf how much damage you get per soul stack. So they're going to be nerfing it from 12 to 10. Tranquility, which is the healing press for supports. What they're going to be doing is they're going to be decreasing the heal and shield power from 10% to 8%. Same thing with Sanctification. That is the one that gives people a fat ass shield. They're going to be nerfing it from 10% to 8%. Dust Devil gives like a movement speed with like all that crit. And also I believe it gives you like a little bit of a damage buff. And I believe the Menace is the damage portion of the passive. And they're going to nerf it from 5 seconds to 3 seconds. Resolution, which used to be the goated item for Murdoch, like when the game first came out. It basically used to be the Mind Razor when the game first came out. I don't know why they changed it to like, they basically just swapped Resolution with Mind Razor, which is just weird. But that was a while ago. And this little update right here is going to be getting a little bit of overhaul because really nobody uses it. So what they said here is its Darksteel passive no longer acts as a damage over time effect, but rather an on-hit damage effect, right? This change will better allow it to stand strong as an on-hit option with respectable damage that is better suited for mana-hungry heroes, therefore open up some new possibilities and build paths. So they're going to be nerfing the physical power by 40 to 35. The attack speed is going to get a little bit of buff from 20 to 25%. Mana is going to get increased from 200 to 250. And then Midnight Missing Mana Restore on hit decreased from 3% to 1%. And then they're going to change up the recipe, which is the build path that it takes to get the item. And then like I said, they reworked the Darksteel passive, right? And so what it's going to do now is basic attacks deal bonus physical damage on hit equal to 3% of your maximum mana. So moving on to Stormbreaker, there's apparently a bug fix, so Chain Zap will now correctly modify its damage with hero on hit modifiers. Infernum is going to be getting a mana buff from 200 to 250. Berserker's Axe is going to be getting an ability haste increase from 10 to 15. Bone Seeker is going to be getting an attack speed buff from 30 to 35%. Caustika's magical power is going to get decreased from 75 to 70. And then they're going to change up the recipe just a little bit on how it's built. And then they keep messing with Megacosm. Apparently they're going to be getting rid of the Atomized passive, and they're going to be adding this new Star Killer passive. So Disintegrate deals additional damage to enemy heroes equal to 4% of their bonus health. And then they're also going to like nerf the Disintegrate maximum health damage from 3.5% to 3%. And I believe they just changed that in the last update too. Yeah, they just need to stop fucking with Megacosm, I'm not gonna lie. Tainted Totem, the health is gonna get decreased from 250 to 200. Well Springs, the water's maximum healing is gonna get decreased from 8% to 5%. Soothing Water's cooldown refund on basic attack is going to get increased from 1 second to 2 seconds. Unbroken Will, which they also just changed in the last patch as well. They're going to be nerfing the health from 350 to 325. They're going to increase the tenacity from 20 to 30%. And they're going to just remove the base health regen from 150 to 0%. They're going to change up the recipe a little bit. And then they're going to increase the duration from 2 to 2.5. And then for the last of the patch notes, we just got a bunch of little bug fixes. I'm not reading through all of that. I literally never read through it. Like, if they got bugs, they better fix them. That's all I really care about. So that's gonna take us to the end of the patch notes, guys. Let me know what you guys think about it down in the patch notes. What do you like? What don't you like? But other than that, make sure you guys go ahead and subscribe to the channel. It's your boy Big Cat 18. I'll catch you guys in the next one, and I'm out. Peace.